Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sister Luv Squad cast, and happy Good Friday to everyone. Because it is Good Friday, we are going to do a cover song comparisons on a famous hymn. This hymn was actually chosen by Linda to do a cover song comparison on, and I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with you about that, Linda. This is the most sung and recorded song, not song, but hymn in the history of recording. Do you know how hard it was to pick however many versions I needed to go over?
How many are there?
That's interesting in itself.
Yeah.
That people who aren't even of the Christian persuasion, if you want to say it that way, find solace in it.
Yep.
I think that is amazing because think of all the movies and everything it's
TV
been
shows,
used
yeah.
in.
Even in Star Trek.
Yeah.
The end of
And
Wrath of Khan.
Sequest, I think.
Sequest, yep.
They use it.
And it is to calm everybody down.
Yeah, it's like in a panic, freaky, apocalyptic kind of state, and the crew doesn't know what to do to calm the citizens of the place down, and somebody says, have church. And so they gather everybody together, and they start singing Amazing Grace.
Yes, because if you read through all the verses, you can't really apply it to anything else but
No,
the Christian.
It can't be secular.
Even the title, Amazing Grace, like, humanity in and of itself does not have grace.
Right.
You do not have grace for each other. You do not have grace for yourself, even.
We don't even have grace in traffic.
God is the only place where grace exists. So before we hop into the different versions, I will suggest that you pause the podcast and go down to the description box below, because we are going to listen to the story behind the writing of Amazing Grace, and I will link that in the description box. So to get kind of the mindset of the song, I would really appreciate you going and watching that before we jump into all the different versions and analyzing the different presentations of this song.
Every time I hear that version and the story behind it, it still makes me tear up or makes me cry. Because to realize that John Newton heard this tune, this mournful tune, and the Holy Spirit convicted his heart about the life he was living.
Yeah.
And that conviction goes down through the years through the words that he wrote.
And we're all a slave to something
Yes.
if we don't have the Lord.
Exactly.
Right. Well,
We're
ultimately,
bound by sin.
right,
is
our
what it
sin
is.
nature.
One thing I found was interesting. He said all the Negro spirituals were on the 5 notes. That means Amazing Grace was written on 5 notes. And in the Bible, the number of grace is 5.
Really?
That's true.
Yeah.
I knew that 6 was the number of man, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that 5 was the number of grace and that 7 is completion.
Yeah.
Which is interesting in context. We were looking up that there were originally 6 verses to this song. And that was all written by John Newton. But then somebody wrote a 7th verse to complete it. And that 7th verse talks about where we're going to eventually be.
Eternity.
Yeah. That's
'Cause
interesting.
The verse, when we've been there 10,000 years, is not originally in it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and nobody really knows who the author is.
No, we couldn't find it anywhere.
So if you can find it, let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you know who wrote that last verse.
I also recommend going and reading John Newton's original verses, the ones that we don't always hear, because he really wrote with a strong poetic sense that gives us some deeper meaning to the words.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the whole song in context, when you read it, it's like it gives a bigger message than you usually hear.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting going through these versions to see what different artists chose to use.
Yeah.
Of course, there were lots of different versions before we could even record sound, but the very first version that I could find that has been recorded. Now, if I'm wrong, drop it in the comments. We'd like to hear an even earlier one. was by the original Sacred Harp Choir. And it isn't just harps, it actually is a choir. So this is the first known recording of the song.
In the year.
1922.
Wow.
Okay.
Definitely sound like a choir that would be in an older movie.
Yeah.
I thought that
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
When they put background music or a church song into
Mhm.
a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting that they were singing, and it didn't have the full version, but it started fading out. They were singing a verse that we don't usually sing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
that was
I have heard it though.
the Lord has
Been so good to me.
No,
Yeah.
the
No.
Lord
No.
has promised good to me.
Oh.
His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be as long as life endures.
Oh,
I
I, love
have
that.
heard that one.
Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah.
we've sang that one in our church
Mm-hmm.
before.
Yeah. It's always interesting to hear from 1922 the
Mhm.
fact that we still have the recording.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's 104 years ago.
I think that's pretty cool.
I know, and we could have just went through like the recordings from the 20s too. I mean, I'm jumping way ahead for the next one. There are so many versions. There's like 836 just on secondhand songs, and they don't always have every single version on their
Yeah.
database. So the next one was actually a very, very popular version.
Mm.
Probably one of the first times that it was really popular in the music world as far as, recorded music. And it's Mahalia, I hope I'm saying her name right,
Oh,
Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson.
Oh.
Yep, in 1948 she recorded it, and it was very popular.
Oh, maze, I'm grace, how sweet the sound.
It's very interesting how her style paralleled to the video we first watched when he was
Mhm.
talking about
Mhm.
how the slaves probably would have been humming the tune
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
where it came from. She had that same kind of mournful
Yeah,
style.
very much so.
If I didn't know the words, I wouldn't prefer this version, I think, because it's so calisthenic.
Yes, yes.
Focused.
So the words almost take a back seat to how her voice is becoming an instrument to. I feel like it's showing a crying
Yes.
or a
Yeah.
mournfulness.
Yep. Definitely displays an emotion more so than getting the emotion from the lyrics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And she just sang the first verse,
Yeah.
So my favorite verse of the whole song is number 2. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an extraordinary verse.
Mhm.
Because we don't think that's and that's what John Newton came face to face with. We don't think that we're not fearing anything. We don't realize the depth of our sinful nature that we should
Mhm.
be afraid of because we deserve justice
Mm-hmm.
on our head.
Yes, it's pride that shows us. That's what the 10 Commandments actually are about. We cannot be that
Right.
Mhm.
without His grace to forgive us.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Right.
Before that, that's what they talk about having the law. Before God gave that, there really wasn't any standard.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we kind of knew because He left His conscience or whatever with us.
We have
Right.
a conscience to know right
Yeah.
or wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
But after there was no doubt.
Mm-hmm. And that's the fear that the 10 Commandments would put in you because you can't fulfill it.
Right.
After the law was given.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yet.
Except those who think that they can. But
Mhm.
then that has to be also squashed,
Mhm.
and according to they can't come up against the 10 Commandments. They are stone.
Well,
Yes.
that's why, Jesus addressed that several times throughout his ministry. He addressed it with the rich young ruler where he says, "Have you kept the commandments?" And he says, "I've kept them since my youth." But yet he couldn't give up his possessions to
His
follow
idol.
him.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So
he had a god
he still
before.
had a God. Or the time where he said, if you even think it, you're committing the sin. If you have the anger, you've already murdered your brother.
Right.
It put a whole different perspective on it that nobody, literally nobody, can achieve that.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's interesting that it's written on stone.
Yes. The Ten Commandments.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there's no way of it being flexible.
Right.
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 I agree. And the way he worded that with saying that it taught his heart to fear, which is what the Ten Commandments do, and grace my fears relieved, which is what, of course, Jesus going to the cross and then the resurrection taught us, that he's the only way
Yeah.
that we
Gave
can
us.
be saved.
Yeah, gave it to us.
It is kind of interesting with the stone that it can be broken, but it can't be bent.
True. I
That's
didn't think
true.
of that.
Yeah.
That was a very wise thing from the youngest member.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Moses
fact-
showed that when he saw what they were doing and he broke it, but
Because
he
they
couldn't-
had already broken them
they
with
had
the
broken
golden
it.
calf.
Mhm.
Before they even had it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, which is what we did to the human manifestation of the law, which was Jesus. The sinful human nature cannot live in the presence of holiness. Well, the next version, we're skipping ahead to 1961. And Elsie will probably like this version. It is Tennessee Ernie Ford. I know he's one of her favorite singers. So.
Yeah.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I really wish that the choir would have stuck with just backing him up instead of soloing that second verse.
Okay, so
I
had a thought on that.
disagree.
I liked that they came in for the softer effect,
Yes.
but they could have had some energy.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
weren't. They had.
You lost the words as we were just
Uh-huh.
talking about that powerful second verse. You did lose the lyrics with the style that the choir was singing. However, listening to the song as a whole, at first I didn't like that, but listening to the song as a whole, it was a very interesting arrangement because Tennessee Ernie Ford has a gift for being able to speak lyrics
Yeah.
and have an impact.
I loved the third verse when they were oohing, not like doing the oohs.
And he spoke it.
Oh yeah, I loved that, and I loved even when they were singing with him, because he had the energy. It was just the second verse was like, they didn't have much emotion in it.
So, yeah, I think it needed to have the break because of Tennessee Ernie Ford's power.
Yes.
I agree
You
with
would have
that.
lost
Yes.
the verses had he just done every verse.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I liked the choir then coming in for a change. Yeah, they could have had a little more emotion or inflection, but it felt like I was sitting in church
Yes.
with a church choir
yes.
Yeah.
and a soloist.
Right.
Yeah,
You
it
know-
sounded like a very young choir too, like teenagers, I would say.
Which was kind of
be,
it did
yeah.
some of it did have a younger sound, which again adds to that church effect because he's got this powerful booming voice representing, he's giving you the message, but then everybody is a part of this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I thought it was kind of geniusly laid out.
Especially for his
I
voice.
can understand what Elsie's saying a little bit. There should have been a little.
Just in the second verse, I liked their background and
Right,
them
right.
singing with him.
Yeah, it could have been a little more booming.
But it's interesting as we keep listening to the songs, and I know we've already discussed the lyrics and how powerful they are, but that's kind of a picture too. Like we're so used to this song.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody grows up hearing this song, and everybody knows this song. How often does really the grace that saved us become commonplace?
Yes.
Yeah.
How much do we take it for granted? And that's every time that Resurrection Sunday comes up or Good Friday comes up, I always want to turn my heart to realize just how much he's given me
Right.
and how every day salvation is a blessing,
Yeah.
an undeserved blessing.
Yes.
So I think that's interesting as I'm listening to this song. It plays in the background, you sing it in church, and I think even I sometimes think, oh, it's Amazing Grace. It's just a standard. But really listening to the words, because now I'm comparing versions I'm also paying attention to how they deliver those words.
Yep.
See,
Right.
this one reminds me of my childhood in
Yes.
church.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me a warm feeling, even the choir part,
Right.
Yeah.
you know. And so many people have sang it that they just want to do the calisthenics of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That it's kind of losing its effect. It needs to come back to listening to the verses
Yes.
instead of,
And the original, like, okay, I'll give space for medleys and everything. We do that, or, live remixes, if you will, of hymns. But I feel like there's a lot of artists and churches that feel like they need to modernize the old hymns when it's getting to the point where people don't even know the old hymns
Mm-hmm.
like they should. And just taking a section of an old hymn without the verses can really make it lose its message.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's the thing. and We're going to get on this. I know we talk about this topic a lot, I think. But as you're saying, old hymns, I know they are. I know they've been around for a long time. But to say that is almost to say, like, the gospel is old and outdated.
right.
And we don't want to do that. We know it's current. We know that the truth is always current. And life is eternal. So to take a hymn that was written based on the truth, it doesn't need modernized. It's still pertinent. It's
Right.
still
Yeah.
current.
you can't get any more current than this.
Right.
hymn.
Right.
No. Yeah.
Which just shows a picture of how God is outside of time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I did like Tennessee Ernie's version.
Yeah.
Like I said right off the get-go, I liked when he spoke through many dangers, toils, and snares.
He made it sound very personal. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he does an amazing job with a lot of songs. Like, we should totally do an artist appreciation on him.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that made an impact on me when he
Yeah,
spoke
and
that
with
verse.
that verse, I think that was the right one to choose to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
especially with his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the whole setting, because it sounded like he was giving a personal testimony.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you saying it sounds like a church service, and it puts you in a
Yeah.
place of what a church service was meant to be and should still be today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's like you just said, it is set up like a church service because you have the song, speaking, song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to 1966, and this is Miss Patty Page.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I love this one. You know why? I don't know how you can sing grateful,
Yeah.
but that's what I got from it. Grateful.
Yes.
It was very simple.
Because it was unlike Tennessee Ernie Ford's in the sense that it was more personal, I think.
Hers.
Yes.
Yeah.
It sounded like, Tennessee Ernie Ford's was like he was telling the congregation. Hers was literally like we were getting insight into a time of prayer between her and the Lord.
Yeah.
It was happy.
Mhm.
It was
was.
grateful. It was
Mhm.
joyous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree. And her voice in general has that very soothing effect. So with the words, it put across that gratefulness,
Yes.
and it also had such clarity. There isn't a single word you missed in her version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it.
I didn't know if I was going to like it at first with the organ and back.
Yeah, and I didn't know if it was rushing her.
Yeah, that was
Right.
my only thing. Was she going too fast?
No.
But I think
I
that
didn't think so.
I think that did add in the time of prayer feeling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The organ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was a great version.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sleeping, Shelley. I was meditating
Oh,
on
is
the
that
lyrics.
right?
Not like weird meditating, but thinking,
You're resting your eyes.
Resting my eyes.
All right. In 1966, also, Burl Ives recorded this song and released it.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
He was way too rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was too rushed.
Yeah.
Like he was almost out of breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, on the good side, even through that, you gotta love Burl Ives' voice because he had a gift of being able to sing to kids.
Yeah, I did.
You know?
The only thing I got from this version is, again, it felt a little cinematic in the sense that it felt like a movie where somebody, maybe there's a church service in the end, and somebody's come to realize the error of their ways.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
And like a choir is all singing together this song. So I felt like it had that element to it. But as far as getting much of the meaning out of the words, it was too rushed.
Yeah, not that it couldn't have been used in a movie, but I mean, I've never heard him out of breath like that.
Yeah, it was rushed.
Yeah.
The only thing that's a shame is, and maybe another version will do this, I really like how it was all him, and then when we've been there 10,000 years, the whole choir came in, like you were in heaven. I liked that idea. But yeah, I agree, it was too rushed.
All right, moving on to 1967. This is Wayne Newton.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
So I think that version that we listened to was actually recorded in 1975. He did a version in 1967 according to Secondhand Songs, but this is the one that I could find.
I loved it. And I have to say that Wayne Newton is such an underrated and underappreciated artist.
I was going to say that. You took it from me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You two are like telepathically connected, so you can't even like blame each other for taking each other's thoughts.
I'm going to have to pinch you
Yep.
so you won't take it again. Yeah, I agree. Wayne, because I remember as a kid growing up, Wayne Newton was kind of like, Wayne Newton? Who wants to listen to Wayne Newton? He had such a high voice for so long,
Right.
Yeah.
you know. And then he became Wayne Newton.
When they did the key change, it was almost too high for him.
But it wasn't. He hit it.
No, yeah,
I thought, okay, are you going to be able to like fully hit this? But no, he fully hit it.
Oh, it
I thought
sounded
he-
strained to me.
No, I thought he did amazing.
I didn't think he was going to. I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't, but that was high for his voice.
And I almost think we should do an episode of artist appreciation on Wayne Newton because there are songs.
Yes, so I can not think about Wayne Newton like I did think about Wayne Newton.
Well, I thought about Wayne Newton the same way, even though you told me not to.
I did, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Give him a chance. Because I know growing up that I felt the same way because in his very early stuff, you know, I heard him before I saw him and I thought it was a female because he's singing so high. You said, no, this is Wayne Newton. And I thought, oh, this is kind of odd. It kind of messes with your brain. But there are several songs like Red Roses for a Blue Lady and the one that always makes me cry, Daddy, Don't You Walk So Fast.
Right.
I mean, amazing. Not just in his vocal ability, but in his emotional delivery.
And we're going to get off a little bit, but on that song, his voice is absolutely perfect for it because it has the childlike,
Which song?
Daddy Don't You Walk So Fast, childlike point of view, but it does he does have maturity too. So yeah,
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on that song. That one really.
Yeah, that one makes me cry every time.
We need an episode dedicated to songs that make us cry. Last
dear.
Kiss. And
Hey, we should do that.
yeah.
Okay, now we're digressing.
Yeah, and we'll
Yeah, and
float
if-
away.
If anybody listening has a song that makes them cry, put it in and we'll...
Yeah,
let's
let us
do
know
that.
and we
Do
could do
that.
an episode on it.
Yeah.
It'll be
That
like
would be-
Noah's Ark in here.
I know.
Or on Pooh Bear, the rain came down.
Well, I mean, the obvious one, Alice in Wonderland.
And the tissue started flying.
But no, that one almost made me cry because his delivery, the arrangement, that gave you the feeling of being rescued.
Yes, that was really good.
And I love how it was so epic in the end, and he went so high, and then he ended on the soft gentleness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
liked
Again.
how he ended
Yeah,
it.
because it shows, you know, every aspect of God. Like, he's bigger than we can imagine, but yet he's able to reach us.
He's not
you
in the
know?
fire. He's
Right.
not in the wind. He's in the still small voice.
Right.
Yeah, just ask Elijah about that, right?
No, that was a great version.
All right. In 1970, there was a version that was very popular and is often called the best recording of this song.
Really?
It was by Judy Collins.
Oh. See?
See our brains. They're one.
You're in sync.
That's a different group.
in sync.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I do think that's a very compelling version.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because, and I love Judy Collins' voice. I don't always like all her songs, but there's a few of her songs I really love. I feel like it's compelling because this gives you a feel of the mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what,
Yeah.
like when you watch the movies about Dolly Parton growing up, where she was, or even Loretta Lynn's history, where she came from, this has that feel of folk or mountain sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, apparently she grew up listening to traditional Irish music her father sang.
Oh, I
wa-
could hear that.
He was a blind singer, pianist, and radio show host.
Wow.
So she didn't know what folk music was when she was young, it says. She said, I thought it was probably Rodgers and Hart. Those were the songs her father sang on the radio.
It obviously had some similarity because if you listen to Irish folk music, or I hear it in the vibrato in her voice. That's where I hear it comparative to the mountain music of America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not that she isn't a good singer. I think she did a good job. It grates against me a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially her version of Amazing Grace here. I could not listen to it. To call it the best version, no.
I liked it.
I wasn't a fan of it.
In 2017, Collins' rendition of Amazing Grace was selected for the preservation in the National Recording Registry of the Library of Congress for its culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant sound of America, I guess you would
I
say.
could see that.
I was gonna say it sounded like the common people singing, if that makes sense. Like just everyday people
It sounded
singing it.
very much like the hills of,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that type of.
Very
Country music.
yodely kind of, tone to it.
Yeah, I can see where that would, but just it didn't touch me like even Wayne Newton
Mm-hmm.
No.
or Patty Page in particular.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was kind of loud.
Yeah.
I did like the choir behind it.
The choir helped her voice for me.
It
Like,
softened it.
The acapella, it's just me, just my personal opinion, what it does to me. I couldn't quite take that.
I always get her mixed up, Judy Collins.
Joan
Joan
Baez.
Yeah, Joan Baez.
Or Joan Collins. Isn't there a Joan Collins?
She's
Or-
an
That's
actress.
No. there's
But there
another one.
is, okay, I'm going to get this mixed up. You're going to have to look up her name. Because she sang that song I love,
Both Sides Now.
Yes.
Judy Collins' version was really popular, but it was written by who?
There's another
names are
gal.
similar.
It's not Joan Baez. There's another
No,
one.
this is who you're thinking of, I think. The
Yeah.
one that wrote Both Sides Now.
Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell.
Yes.
I knew it was Joan something.
Yeah.
The only thing that popped in my head when I thought Joni was Joni James. I'm like, that is not it.
No, that's a different sound.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not going to say that it made the words stick out to me, but just for the sound of it, it did have a regional feel
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
to it.
All right. So next up is Elvis Presley's version. Now, Secondhand Songs had the date as 1972. However, I believe he recorded it before that time with the Philharmonic Orchestra, which is the version that I have to play.
Amazing grace, oh how sweet the sound
you can tell that when he is singing gospel music, especially as the first video we watched mentioned this is in a Negro spiritual style. Elvis's definitely was reminiscent of that.
Yes.
And you can tell when he's singing, it's like therapeutic and throwing him back to his childhood. That's what I hear. For me personally, his version was a little bit too calisthenic. I don't like the words to get lost in that.
Right.
But yeah, in Elvis's voice, you can almost hear like he's craving something in this. At least that's what I hear.
Yeah.
And that
I
it's
can see
throwing him back to something that was very comforting.
Another
to
thing
him.
is he sang the last verse in the middle.
Yeah, second. That was interesting.
Well, they sometimes do it second, but that means they're only doing 2 verses.
Right, and then he
Right.
went back to
Through many
yeah.
dangers. Yeah, it was interesting.
Not sure how I feel about that, but
And I wonder if it was on purpose or the choir just followed him.
it could have been. You know, they
Maybe.
traded verses in the actual session.
Yeah, or he accidentally started singing one, and the choir just, if they were doing it all together,
Yeah.
recording it all together.
Well, apparently they attended Assembly of God
Oh.
Elvis family.
did growing up?
growing up, and that's where it says he found his initial music inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And Elvis and I have something in common.
What's that?
Well, I was reading through this. If it proved to be true, he flunked music.
Oh.
And look what he became.
Yep,
and
yep.
going through my fabric today, I flunked sewing in home ec.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And look what I have done.
Today. Yep.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
at all those amazing outfits.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
ho-
not just the
well, I
Sister
wasn't
Luv
talking
ones.
so much about that, about how much fabric I've
Oh.
still have.
But it's true. Elvis flunked music, and he made it in music, and I say that you've made it in sewing.
Oh, absolutely.
Just
Over
don't
and
look
over.
on the inside. That's a family joke. Family joke. You don't have time to be fancy for inside seams and that if you're getting ready for a theater production. So
That's
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah, we talked about those a little bit on the last podcast, so go listen to that one and you can hear a little bit about our theatrical endeavors. But also, if you're in the Squadcast discussion group on Facebook, I posted some of the pictures from our theater days in the group.
No, I know there's a lot of fans of Elvis's gospel music, and I think actually where it comes from is the fact that you get to hear vocal talent that isn't always displayed.
Mm-hmm.
He displays more of his ability, his range, his improv ability in the gospel music.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the impression that was made on him in the church.
well, and it says here he would regularly attend monthly all-night singings downtown, where white gospel groups perform music influenced by African American spirituals, and you can really tell that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know. Elvis has a voice that I can listen to without criticizing it at all. I don't know how to, if that's what I want to
It's-
say. He has a soothing voice. He
Right.
seems to be able to sing anything.
Right.
Well, partially because he takes everything and makes it his own. He makes it
Right.
his style instead of trying to copy or mimic. And he had somebody arranging things for him that knew his style.
True.
So that really matters too.
like,
It's like
I love that song "Crying in the Chapel,"
yes.
and he could sing most anything. I think. You know.
Yep.
I think so. I think he worried too much that he couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you really look at it.
Well, like I was reading over this, he had no self-esteem so much, because he's saying I wasn't popular in high school, got kind of beat up on a little bit and everything. So maybe that had something to do with it.
Well, to be honest, and we're going to get off here once again on one of our rabbit trails, but I was reading the other day on the psychiatry of twinless twins. Because somebody made a post about Marlon Jackson on his birthday because he had a twin brother that passed away shortly after being born. And how, now, him and Michael Jackson were pretty close, so Michael was kind of the replacement for his twin brother. But there is a full psychological study on twinless twins and how it impacts them throughout their life. How they're constantly missing something, and some try to have to prove themselves all the time, even when they've made it in things. That they never feel like they're quite enough because it feels like half of them is missing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense with him.
I just wish that people wouldn't box him into one style of singing.
I know.
You know, because and even acting, I think he was a very good actor. He didn't get his chance like he should have because he was always putting his other ones, but which are entertaining. We just watched Kurt Russell talk about him and how humble he was.
Yeah, and it happened at the World's Fair.
Yeah. I don't know. It was an interesting life he lived.
Yeah, I think that's what's hard, and it happens with all of us, and we all get our heroes, our celebrity heroes. I understand how it happens, but they box him into what was comfortable and what he gave to the people. Like, I think we start looking at the stage Elvis instead of realizing the humanity of it, you know, his life, and sometimes that's even the sadness, but it's important to know.
Yeah. To see him as a whole person. And I mean, that happens in everything. It happens when, even bringing it back to the Bible, you know, you're reading about these people. These people actually had lives, and they had full ranges of emotions and the same temptations that we have, you know. So when you look at them as a person, it gives you a whole different perspective and makes it so that you can relate more to them.
Right. Right, there's a lot more to Elvis. Like, I realize that the songs might hit your heart, but the thing about music is it's so powerful and people grab onto it and relate to it. There may be even more about the actual person and their struggles versus their victories that you would be able to relate to.
Yes.
Yes, because Elvis was a nobody.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
This kid that wasn't popular in school and got picked on. And all of a sudden, he has changed the whole idea of music
Across the world.
across the world. You know, and everybody wants to be Elvis. Think about that if it was you.
I know. How weird.
You know?
All right. Well, the next version in 1972 is Andy Williams.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
How dare they do that to Andy?
I know. I have a couple thoughts on that.
The bagpipes.
Oh my!
They
I'm
were
not.
there through the whole thing.
I'm not a bagpipes fan, but that was a horrible quartet or whatever of bagpipes.
Yeah, no offense to any Scots listening, but this time, this representation of bagpipes was not.
I think they would be offended.
Yes, because the bagpipes that start the Amazing Grace is always so cool. I mean,
know.
It really stirs you.
I was gonna say it's a really cool concept.
Because they actually use bagpipes on Star Trek when they play it.
Yes,
Yes,
They
and makes
do.
you cry.
Yes, it does.
even though they're sending off a Vulcan into space and it's like all this evolutionary based story, that still hits, and they still used Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
And William Shatner.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care how many times I watch that. He makes me cry.
Oh, it was really bad on the big screen.
screen.
We saw it in the theater. I was like, oh my goodness. Anyway, it is a really cool concept. Like I said, I don't know if I could listen to a whole concert of bagpipes, but they do have their place and they can be used for cool effect. those things needed tuned.
I know. I
Mhm.
really liked the way Andy's voice was in this.
Uh-huh. It was beautiful.
Because it was actually a lot different than how he normally sings. He normally has that lower, richer tone. They put it in a higher key for him, so it almost sounded like a young boy's voice. You know, like a young boy in a choir's voice. With how high they had his voice going in that.
You disagree, Shelley?
Sorry, I'm dying at the look on Shelly's face at Elsie's
I
statement.
don't quite get that concept, but you do you.
But yeah, it was a beautiful version.
Yeah.
I loved his voice.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
I loved his voice.
You know, it made me think of, though, I follow this influencer Kenny Boyle on Facebook, and he's technically Scottish Irish, but he's grown up in Scotland and he tells different, Scottish mythology and different facts and stuff. And he did a video on the bagpipes and said that if you don't like the bagpipes, you're just wrong and you are tone deaf. He's like, if you've never heard bagpipes played like they should be, you just are wrong if you don't like them.
Well, I can say this. Maybe Kenny will listen to this and review this bagpipe performance because I have heard better bagpipes than these.
Yeah, especially when when he started out the first verse, they didn't move at all.
I know.
It was just like a constant annoying sound.
I know.
It sounded like he had feedback.
But
I know.
Zena, you have heard bagpipes in concert.
Have I?
Do you remember? It was you, Mandy, and me in the Apache Mall, and they had bagpipes playing. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
You couldn't get very close to them. You had to walk away because they were so bad.
Well,
It's hard to have them in a enclosed area.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
Yeah.
it's better if it's an open air performance.
yeah, no, they were good musicians.
yeah,
Plus, my ears are tuned a little differently. There's certain frequencies that I can't handle as well.
I would like to hear bagpipes played in the Highlands of Scotland.
Can I go too?
Yes.
Me as well.
Yes.
I keep getting 10-day tour of Scotland through
That
my
is
Facebook
probably
feed.
my fault because I have been looking at a ton of tourist stuff for Scotland. I really want to go.
Yeah.
I know.
Anybody who a wealthy benefactor right now would
Send
be
us
nice.
to Scotland.
Yeah.
We'll bring you all along with our videos and
Yep.
content.
Always looking for that wealthy benefactor.
But anyway, Andy had a beautiful rendition of it. It just got ruined by very bad bagpipe players.
No, because you know how I can always separate it because I just listened to his voice and blocked out the bagpipes, and his delivery was beautiful.
Yeah.
And perfect, and I thought heartfelt.
Yep, sorry, Andy. Bad choice there. All right, we'll go through the 70s, and then we will take a little break to answer a few questions. But the next version is from 1973, and it is Glenn Campbell.
Amazing grace, Lord, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
So that one was live. I didn't know that, but the little clip that you got, what'd you think of it?
Well, it was kind of a neat way to end a show, but I mean, I didn't really.
I thought he was trying too hard.
I did too.
Yeah.
It was a little too much calisthenics, especially for Glenn Campbell, because I
Yeah.
love Glenn Campbell's voice, but yeah, I wasn't big on the arrangement, the way he was doing it. And then he changed the words odd.
Yeah. I don't know anybody that does that live in a show.
Hey,
Her
only
name's
if-
Zena.
Only if I forget the words. And
Well, he may have forgot the
well,
words.
maybe so. Maybe so, but at least he did it seamlessly, right?
We picked up on it.
Past does not rhyme with home, but okay. All right, so next up is another one of Zena's favorite singers, and I believe this one is live as well, although I think it's a live recording, so it should be a little bit cleaner. This is Cliff Richard.
From the album Help It Along. Yeah. That is a live performance.
Actually, Olivia Newton-John's in the background doing backing vocals.
Oh, is she?
in this one. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, it sounds like
Oh.
her.
Amazing grace,
I think that he did a good job, but I wasn't crazy about the arrangement of the like marching drum.
There
Oh,
was a
I didn't
marching
notice
drum?
that. Was that on just one verse?
Well, it was definitely on the last verse.
Yeah. My favorite part of it was when it was Cliff and the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite part of the whole thing. Now, some of the harmony arrangement at the end, from a harmony perspective, was cool and gave a good feel. But there was one person that was singing by themselves.
Yeah, in the harmony.
And yeah, it was Olivia Newton-John. She was singing a backup part, but she was not singing as a whole with everybody else.
And I want to clarify that I have not looked at the back of the album. I don't know if she's credited. I just know the voice, like recognize the voice.
There's
That
no
has to
way
be
that's
her.
not Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
Especially since they, sang together.
Cliff and her
Yeah.
did stuff together. Yeah, that's got to be her.
But aside from that, the reason I like it so much is it's live. And I like the second verse, like you said. I mean, I like the beginning. I do wish that it had just been him singing.
Yeah.
But even so, I love the "'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear" verse, the way he does it, because more than singing, he speaks it.
Yep.
And the entire song, it sounds more like he's just speaking from a personal experience rather than, calisthenic. I mean, it gets a little that way at the end, but not crazy.
Yeah, if I had to pick one of my favorites, this is probably going to be on the list. I do really like his version.
Yeah. And I get it's live, so you got to give it a little bit of space. Cliff really shines when it's purely him. I feel like sometimes he adds too much to his background almost, when he's really good at being personal and just singing with just a guitar or something acoustic sounding, or that really showcases his voice beautifully.
And he didn't. I was worried he was going to do too much of that vibrato that bugs me.
I was wondering,
But it wasn't bad.
The
Okay.
first verse he kind of did. But then I'm telling you, that second verse should have been the whole thing.
He has a lovely voice.
Yes.
It just sometimes tries too hard.
don't say that line.
Well, you know.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
I can understand how it happens, as much flack as he's gotten over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know what it is with the vibrato? It seems a little forced. Is what it seems like to me.
I wonder if that's when it bothers you.
I could see where you could get that, although I don't think that's the case. I think that's literally, he has such a natural vibrato that I think that's him holding out a note.
Yeah, or him even just putting a little oomph into it.
I think
because he
she's-
does have a thick vibrato.
I think she's somewhat right. I don't have anything to back this up, but if you go from the 60s tracks that I really love when he sings lower, there is a lack of vibrato he can do, which I actually love. That's going to sound strange, but it like makes the note kind of sharped. Do you know what I'm talking about?
And see, he did kind of do it on every end of it, but see, he can help doing it because he didn't do it until the very end of the note.
Like on the relieved, that part he didn't do it. It wasn't till, he didn't have that,
Yeah.
So, no, it's one of my favorite versions just because I like Cliff Richard, but also because it sounds personal, especially in the middle verses.
Yeah. I could cut everything except for that second verse and just listen to that second verse. That's my personal opinion on it.
Oh yeah, I liked everything except
That's why the end was hard on me. Okay, I was listening to some of the harmony parts and it was really cool. But you know how I listen to music. I hear the whole picture and it's like, I hear the whole picture. That's an interesting statement that I just made.
Mixy two senses there.
Yeah. With her going rogue, it was distracting for me when I hear all the harmony parts.
And if it was actually like mixed in a recording,
Right.
I think it would have been better because even the lower harmony was a little loud at some points.
Yeah, but I thought it was appropriately loud because they still were using that background tone that it helped fill in. It was sometimes, is that Cliff doing that or is that not?
Well, yeah, and on the end, the harmony that you liked, when they really started out and they were locked in at first.
Oh, yeah, that was Cliff.
He jumped into a higher part. which I thought was pretty cool.
Well, he started out, that last verse, he started out singing the lower harmony, and then he jumped up to the melody.
Yeah, I'm not very good with harmony parts, but which is which. But yeah, I knew that he switched parts, and it was seamless.
All right. I did have a couple others from the 70s in the list, but we're getting kind of short on time, and I want to make sure that after the break we do get to some of the ones in the 80s and 90s. So I'm going to play one more from the 70s, and then we'll take some questions. And this is Ray Price.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
My favorite.
Yeah, my favorite version
me too.
so far.
That was amazing.
Oh my goodness, it almost made me cry.
Yeah,
Me
from the
too.
first verse.
Right.
Loved that.
I know we mentioned gratefulness with Patty Page, and that's somewhat there, but it's the humility of feeling that it's undeserved, but so grateful
And
that
yet
it's his.
you can hear it's like he's in awe of the peace that the Lord has given him.
Yes.
Through his grace.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a feel also of like a dad singing it to his
Mhm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It did.
telling them about this is how daddy can survive, you know.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow. The arrangement was perfect for him,
Mm-hmm.
and the delivery.
And I love the choir and the.
Yes,
Yeah. The
and that
background
they
singers.
used that verse that is often skipped over.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah,
The one the Lord has promised good to
good
me.
to me. Yes.
And the fact that and I've heard the Lord has been so good to me several times, and I haven't yet in these versions, but I have, and I don't know if it's in some hymnals, but I really like the Lord has promised good to me, because it is a promise, and it's a promise that we need to claim as Christians, and lots of times we don't.
It was also interesting how they used that verse in this rendition, because he was singing, he was praising the Lord for his amazing grace, and it was almost like they were blessing Ray. You know what I'm saying? Like angels speaking the blessing over Ray.
Oh, that's
For
an
his
interesting
praise.
perspective on it.
Mm.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could have that song.
Yep, that one's going on my Christian playlist for sure.
I know we've passed his time, but did Jim Reeves ever do it?
I did not see him on the secondhand songs list. I would have added it had I seen him on there. Now, he may have done it, and it just isn't added to the database yet, or isn't online. Sometimes some albums they just do not have accessible online.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You'd have to search that out. But anyway, we've come to our break time, and we do have a few questions. So the first one is from Colin, and it is favorite book of the Bible, favorite verse. So I'm assuming that the book doesn't have to be the same as the verse that you pick. It's kind of two questions in one.
Well, of course, the Gospels are they're like the foundation of the whole Bible. So, I mean,
But the Old Testament is too.
well, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the foundation for the Gospels.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess.
No, say that again.
So what's your favorite book of the Bible, and what's your favorite verse?
Well, the verse is going to be easier for me. Joshua 1:9 is my favorite verse.
And what's
Which
Joshua 1:9
which one is
say?
that?
It's be strong and courageous. Yeah, go ahead, Elsie.
It's, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.
Yes.
It is, it's Joshua 1, so it's in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
when he's handing it over to Joshua from Moses. I'd have to say Psalms is probably my favorite.
Book.
Absolutely, like, favorite. Esther is close, second.
I was gonna say Esther is probably my favorite book.
But yeah, Psalms has, like, it has it all. Like, So, but my favorite verse, that's really hard. Like, there's a lot.
Well, you can't just, as a Christian, you can't have one favorite verse. Like,
Right,
there
yeah,
are several, but one that
one that
pops
stands
to
out.
mind right now.
Well, probably my life verse would be Psalm 46:1, which was in a reader from when I was like in 4th grade, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it just popped out to me. So I've always kind of held that, which is God is my refuge's strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Psalm 46 is really good because that also has the be still and know verse.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You asked me that, and all of a sudden my brain went blank. What
Yeah.
book? No. Yeah, boy, I don't know.
I know you can only think of the first 4 books of the Bible then, right?
Well, the only one that popped in my head was Matthew.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go with. It's very hard to like pick, especially a book. I don't think I can pick a book because I've been touched by all of them in some way
Yeah.
at different times in my life. As far as verses go, I don't know if I have like a specific life verse, but there's 3 different instances that pop in my mind as really affecting me. One would be when I was a child and Linda, for like school time, actually had me read Isaiah 53. And when I was reading Isaiah 53, even as a child, she didn't explain any of it to me, but I just started crying, realizing the impact of, by his stripes we are healed, and how we have stricken him. It's explaining how our sin is what nailed him to the cross.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I did that on purpose. I wanted you to read Psalm 53 and
Isaiah.
Isaiah, sorry, 53, and watch your reaction to it before I explained anything. And it's just like the Holy Spirit had a hold of you, and it just dawned on you what this was, and
Yes.
how real it's not a story, it's a historical fact.
Right.
And yeah, that also impacted me.
That, and then I know the other time, the instance that, in stressful times, and I was probably a little bit older, but where we went through the story of the storm, or the account of the storm, and Jesus said, "Peace, be still." And that's always something that I've carried through difficult times, remembering that Jesus is the peace and that he calms the storm. And I guess going along with that, one more recently, a verse that has always popped out at me is Psalm 94:19, and that's, "In the multitude of my anxieties within me, your comforts delight my soul." Because that's such a good description, and David always has good descriptions of the struggle that we deal with in the flesh, since we're still here, bound to this earth. Just a multitude of anxieties within me when your brain starts spinning about things that you don't need to even think about or be concerned with. His comforts delight your soul.
Kind of on that note, too, I think I have this verse right, Philippians 4:16.
4:13, is that I can do?
13 is I can do all things.
No.
What's the...
Let me look.
Be anxious for nothing.
That's Philippians 4:6 through 8.
There's one of your favorites.
Be
Linda?
anxious for nothing.
But
I was given that verse by the Lord. Be anxious for nothing at the start of a new year. Can't remember what year it was. Try that. Try to be anxious for nothing, but take everything to the Lord. I mean, as a human being, you would think, okay, I can do that, right? Be anxious. I will take everything to the Lord. You can't.
it's
like
almost-
nothing. I tried to put something into nothing. Well, that doesn't mean that.
Right.
It means zero, de nada, nothing. And
that's-
it's
And that's why I actually brought it up, because that has impacted me. I mean, you can't do that. There's no possible way.
You can't put something into nothing.
And it's almost like an 11th commandment.
yes, I know it. Yeah.
Well, in a sense, it's not necessarily an extra commandment because it does fall into the category of thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Because when
Right.
you're living in anxiety and anxiousness, you are bowing down to yourself, because you can't be anxious if you don't believe there's something that you can possibly do about it. That's you trying to fix it.
But we're anxious without even realizing it.
Yes.
That's
yes.
the multitude of anxieties within me. It's there.
Is-
Yep.
Just the fact that maybe you forgot your keys before you walked out. Or anything. I mean, what day do you not go through being anxious for something? sitting around talking too long when I need to be doing something else.
We're good at that.
You know? I mean, literally, they're anxious for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need the Lord.
Yep.
I do have one, not just one, but this one popped in my head. It's the Psalm of David, the 23rd Psalm. And this one is important to me because of my dad. When, if I can get through this, when he was starting to not be as coherent. This is, I would read this to him because this is, he could quote this with me.
Yeah. He had dementia, right?
Yeah. There
Something
was
like
other
that.
things wrong too. And also when there was a time when I was going through some hard things, when it says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And then I had a dear friend that Jaylee's named after. We were talking about this psalm, and she says, everybody has a part of this psalm that impacts them more. I mean, the whole psalm does, but there's one,
That always sticks out to you.
sticks out. And hers was, and she knew this from a child, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life.
Oh.
And she was like that,
Yeah.
you know. So anyhow, that made me tear up somewhat.
Yeah, me too over here at this couch.
But, yeah, it's amazing that the Bible, if you're a believer, even if you can't remember your name, you can remember a verse.
Yes.
Which it's interesting. It's Psalm 23. Psalm 22 leads the way into Psalm 23, and Psalm 22 is the chapter prophesying about Jesus on the cross. It's the one that starts with, my God, why have you forsaken me? So it shows that because of what Jesus did, we can rest.
That he's our shepherd.
He's our shepherd, and he will take care of us.
Yeah. So books, like I said, Esther, and mostly because I did a study on Esther and I read along with the Chuck Swindoll book about Esther. And Esther's the one book in the Bible that the name of God is never mentioned. And yet there's no way you can't see his working throughout it.
Yes.
Which is kind of a picture how we live now in the period of grace post, the cross and everything. That, even though we can't necessarily see him right now, it's so evident that he's working and he's here. And especially the scene, if you will, where she's debating on if she should go before the king to save the people or not. She's talking to Mordecai. And everybody quotes the if I perish, I perish, and say how courageous she was. And it took courage. I'm not saying that. But the debate she had talking to Mordecai in that conversation is like, you feel the fear and you feel the inferiority that she's feeling. And when Mordecai tells her that if you do not go, God's going to save his people no matter what, whether he uses you or not. And you're going to perish too, but he's going to save his people. So it's either you take the step or he'll send somebody else. And that's something that's like, it's a righteous fear, if you will, in me, where it's like, I don't want to be the person that God's like, well, you wouldn't do it, so I had to send someone else.
You don't want to miss the boat.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people, I think that she said, if I perish, I perish, like it was a political statement or in a speech. It could have been more like, if I perish, I perish.
I think so.
It was a little bit like, you know what, he's good, and God is good, and
I
this
have
is
to
what
do
he's
it.
telling me to do. So if I perish, I perish.
That's why, she knew that there's no reason why she should have made it to be the queen.
Right.
So that's maybe you've been here for such a time as this. I think that statement from Mordecai gave her a reality check of this queenly attire is not who you are. This is not where you came from. So you have been given the authority that you need to make this happen.
I think that that statement, if I perish, I perish, it was a resignation
Yep.
to the fact,
Mm-hmm.
but still there was a reality that she's not going to do this on her own.
Yeah.
So she has to please pray for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
As she
You
Yes.
know,
yes.
Yes, she,
because yeah.
she had them fasting and praying for her for 2 days before she went in.
Well, when Mordecai said, "Hey, it's either way, you're going to,
Right.
you know, if you don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're not going to
either-
escape.
no, you're either going to be dead
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to be at loss."
Mm-hmm.
So, but she still had that. Okay, I need you guys to help me too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's a great picture of what the body of Christ is supposed to be.
Yep.
On a worldwide level, you know, the Holy Spirit has us pray for each other because we don't even realize what we walk through
Mm-hmm.
and that our brothers and sisters are praying for us.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, how many times
Mm-hmm.
you don't even realize
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
until after you can't until after the fact. You look back and see the goodness of God.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love the song by Don Moen, Somebody's Praying for Me.
Mm.
Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's good.
Mm-hmm.
But also, even, and the Lord will put, if you need prayer, the Lord will put you on somebody's heart you may not even know. But even if there's not one Christian in the world praying for you, it says in Romans that Jesus is praying for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, he did. That prayer's written down in his
Mhm.
prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. He prayed for
that's-
everybody who was to come, too.
Mm-hmm. That goes into a song that our audience should listen to. It's kind of deviating, but You Gave Me Love by B.J. Thomas.
Yes.
Has that exact
Yes.
message.
Love that song.
Mhm.
Yes.
And this is kind of back on Esther again. The verse that says, maybe you were born for such a time as this.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the hardest pills to swallow, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
because she didn't want to be born for such a time as this, I'm sure, when she realized what the time was.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, as you said, Esther is held up as a very courageous woman, but it was totally on the Lord's strength which she leaned on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where the strength is in submitting to God
Mhm.
and his will, and that he will protect you.
Right.
Which goes to my favorite verse. It's like I said, it's hard, but it's more of a passage and it's a psalm. I know, especially when I was going through, losing Papa, the Lord really used Psalm 91, which is not only a psalm of comfort, but it is a major one to pray over yourself when you're going through spiritual warfare,
Mm-hmm.
because it is so strong. You can read the whole thing. It's not very long, but that's probably one of my favorite passages. All right, let's see. Second one is from Timothy, second question. And that one is, what draws you to older music at such a young age?
Well, I think.
Well, I'll tell him.
Okay.
I indoctrinated you guys.
Oh, my
That's
word.
exactly what I was going to say. Not that way.
Oh, see, we think alike.
Yeah, I was going to use those words, but yeah, and that's why I have to thank Linda for our wide range of music appreciation, because you had everything playing when I was young. Like from the time that I was a baby, all different genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything from classical music to country to crooner. And because of that, I never really had. I feel like when I speak to people, some people have a sense of, well, this is my music because I was born at this time, so it's everything after that. Or even people like music of the past, they stick with one decade.
Mm-hmm.
You taught us not to have like music snobbery. Like music is music. Appreciate it for what it is.
Right. Even like Custer had music special band with him.
Yes.
You know, so you
Those songs are some of the most nostalgic for me, because I wasn't really in on the Civil War because I was pretty little.
The study of the Civil War that we did.
Civil War, but
You
you
were
guys,
in on the Civil War, Elsie?
No, I wasn't.
You were pretty little. How old are you?
the
but-
study of.
Yeah.
Study of the Civil War. But you had that music playing. And we took a trip back to Washington during that time, and that's what was playing, and we saw the different sites. I love that music. It's so nostalgic for me.
And that's more the Custer era, not so
Yeah.
much the Civil War,
Oh.
because
See,
they were,
I wasn't in on the study of it, so I just know the music.
yeah, it's the songs of the 17th Cavalry.
Well, and my dad, he loved music. And of course, you know, he grew up with listening to the radio.
Right.
And so it brought the Carters and the who else was there?
Kitty Wells was there.
Kitty Wells,
Hank Williams.
You know, that hill music, if you will, the first of the country music into
Yep.
our home, because he loved that. In old movies, I hate to say old,
In classic movies.
classic movies, you know, you start listening to different, you know, music from the 30s and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
I was just going to say something on that because when we were little, and I think this is very important what you did, you and Mandy always watched movies, kids' movies or TV shows before we did to make sure they weren't sticking stuff in there kids don't need to know about. So the ones that passed the test were ones like the Barbie movies, which have a big Broadway feel, and Backyardigans. I did not realize this.
Oh boy, here come the backyardigans.
Oh, and that's
Did you
because
regret it?
that's because I loved you people.
Well, you had us watch that, and I was looking at our DVDs, which we still have, the other day, and each episode is based on a different genre of music. I
It
mean, they
is.
have like 3 or 4 songs or more per episode, and they have 60s pop, they have reggae, they have disco, they have all of it. So we had that plus the actual original songs from those genres playing.
Well, my first, I know I probably said this on here, my first movie memory is probably Singing in the Rain.
Right?
That was my favorite movie. My first crush was Gene Kelly. I mean, and I'm talking like at 3-4 years old. He was my crush. But, you know, I think the answer to the question is we've just always had all different kinds of music all throughout our lives. And once we got a little older, you know, we were taught to always learn and discover. And that's the way that Linda schooled us, even in our schooling. It's like you give a child the basics and they will develop and learn what they want to know and what they need to know. So it's one of the pros to having a streaming culture where you have access to limitless music. It isn't just what the radio's playing.
Right.
But in that teaching, you got to ask the kids then, why do you want
Exactly.
to know this? Tell me about this. Teach me what this is about and why it's important.
Exactly.
And that makes them dig in even further, and I learn stuff.
And sometimes she regrets it when we get obsessed with a certain singer or
Subject or-
group, or and then she
that's
doesn't
happened.
hear the end of it.
I remember when I went through, like, I'm still a big Monkees fan, but when I went through my Monkees phase, I talked about it, quoted it all the time. To the point of, I'm sorry, guys, I mean, you guys survived this. To the point of, we were in speech at the time, and one of our fellow speech members told me he would pay me a penny if I could spend one day not talking or quoting about the Monkees. I did make it one day. I did get that penny.
I was
did.
just like, why we could do that for a penny? Give me $100 and I'll do it.
Well, this shows though who's a little bit better at
Haggling.
Yes.
Yeah. See,
Well, yeah, because I introduced you to the monkeys.
Right.
Because they were big when I was a junior higher.
Yeah.
And another thing, not that we didn't have some of the monkeys in that before, but we kind of grew up with different decades. Like, I feel like there was 40s and 50s when I was really little.
Yep.
And then when the girls got to be teenagers, it was 60s.
More Motown, British invasion music.
Yep. And then when I was probably about 13, I started listening to 70s and, you know, some 80s. And now I'm really into the 80s right now. But I still love music from the 50s and I love music from the 80s and 70s. I mean, I don't love all of it, but I do love a variety from each decade.
Yeah.
But that's why people sometimes are like, well, I just hate on all modern music. Like, you guys just don't like modern music. That's not true if the modern music was appealing to me.
Right.
Like, there are songs that have come out that I'm like, oh, this is actually a good song. It's just far and few between. Good music is good music no matter what. It's timeless.
Right.
So nobody really should be a music snob.
Yeah, that's kind of saddens me that people won't explore what's already their past.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're missing our history and been told that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Our history isn't bad, but we're people just making our way through it. And if you go back in the 30s, say,
Mm-hmm.
like there's some things that came out of that was extraordinary, and the people who lived there thought they was as modern as where they were.
Mm-hmm.
They're as
Th-
modern
they
as
didn't
we are
they
here.
didn't think they were past.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think they were historical.
Mm-mm.
And the things that came on those people, like the crash and the stock market, and then the depression and all that. Can you imagine living through that? My mom was born in the middle of it. Dad was a little bit, he was a small kid.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've asked him, what was it like? Because I have that view of man, like a movie view of
Yep,
it.
right.
Like the Waltons.
Yeah. They go, well, we just lived.
Mhm.
I mean, and you think about it, and we did experience a historical event.
Yes.
In
2020.
Right?
That
Yeah.
was something that will probably be in the history books, and people are not going to know how we lived through that.
Yep, and it's every history book is going to have a different view on it because it's written from different perspectives.
Yep.
My diary is not going to look like the diary of somebody else that went through it. So that's why you have to look at actual first-hand accounts to get the views of everybody on historical situations rather than just what one history book says.
And make sure it's not a revisionist.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that's what's important. That's something I'm noticing. Like, we should never doubt firsthand accounts on one point. You should vet it as a big picture. You should put puzzle pieces together. But somebody's perspective, whether it was maybe what you think is the correct version or not, it is how they lived. It's through their worldview. It's through their personality. You have to take that into account. I wouldn't say it's incorrect, but I would say it's correct according to their point of view.
If you can prove that it is actually the person's first-hand account.
Right. That's what I'm
Because
saying.
there are autobiographies and stuff that are claimed to have been written by people and they are not.
Right.
So you do have to be careful in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important for grandchildren to talk with their grandparents.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't even know why they did what they did or what was, people, change through the years and think, well,
Yes.
that was dumb. I see that a lot. That bothers me. They'll look back at the fashions like the 80s. I can't believe we wore stuff like that. Why not?
Yeah.
Why does it make your fashion right now better than it was in the 80s or
right.
the 70s or the
Yeah.
60s?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You didn't think it was stupid then.
Mm-hmm.
So, embrace that. Yes, you've changed your ideas, but it doesn't mean that was stupid.
No, let's stop with sheep mentality.
Right.
Because that's really what it is. It's because trends come and go, and whoever sets the trends or wants you to buy certain products are going to make you think that's passe.
Right.
This is now what's in. Yeah, well, you liked it at that point.
Let's just say I'd watch a 1980s fashion week before a 2026 fashion week.
Well, that is
I mean,
true.
I like some of the things, of course, that we've talked about that is better, like pantyhose for one.
True.
I mean, but other things like that,
Not that there can't be improvements.
Well, from a Christian perspective, God is outside of time.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows all of time. He created time. So to know him, you need to study time. You need to study what the human race has been through. I know some people that will not watch any movies or listen to any music before they were born. How much information are you cutting off? And you're saying what brought you to the point where you are now does not matter.
Right.
You have to embrace the past and see it all as, don't even see it as necessarily old or as the past, because that's not how God views it. He views it from a perspective that's outside of time.
If the Wright brothers hadn't been at Kitty Hawk, would we have jet planes?
Right.
You know, somebody might have come along. I'm not saying that, but think about it. These people, they're fascinating because they were just people. They weren't the Wright brothers.
Right.
You know?
And
Exactly.
instead of saying this is, even if you kind of look on the flip side of it, instead of saying this is bad because it was made after 1999, or, you know, and this is good just because it was made before it, look, instead of just saying that as a blanket statement, look at why it bugs you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How
That's back
does
to-
the
yeah.
music affect you?
Well, that's the truth. That's what we have to look at, especially because we talk about music so much, and that's what the original question was on. Yeah, why has it changed, and how have we seen the impact socially on a large level?
On a bright note, just like with Connie Francis, people are looking at it, enjoying it, and that's encouraging.
That's why
Yes.
we're bringing it back.
Yes.
Because it has the same power it had when it first came out.
Right.
We
it's
just
new.
we just have to make it available.
Yes, and this is what I was saying about the streaming culture, that there are pros and cons, and as an artist, yes, I think streaming services should pay way more to artists for their royalties and playing their music. Don't get me started on this because I've been going through it now uploading our single. But I do love that there's that easy of access so anybody can access music from any time.
Right.
I do really appreciate that.
Yes.
And understand the fact that just because a group does cover songs doesn't mean they're not a legit group, because it used to be that anybody could cover almost any song. There was the label system, which, you had to cover the songs within the label, but people didn't view it as, oh, they're just covering so-and-so song. No, this is their version of the song. And I think we need to get back to that a little bit, because we're limiting modern performers in labeling, oh, they're just a cover artist.
It's like Mickey said at his concert, Mickey Dolenz. We went to his concert 2 years ago, and he said we were all cover bands.
Yeah.
We're covering songs. Everybody at that time.
You
was.
make it your own.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Believer, which was technically a Monkey song, is technically a Neil Diamond song, because he wrote it and recorded it.
Well, you're also limiting income for songwriters in
Right.
that, because they get royalties off of their song being performed. And if you make it a stigma for people to cover songs, then they don't get the money they could have had with other groups covering their song.
I don't see that happening. I think it's trending away.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. And that's why we love doing cover song comparisons here and appreciating different interpretations of the same song.
All right. Everybody got all their answers out for that one. Basically, the answer to the question, what draws you to older music at such a young age, is because we were raised loving all kinds of music. And we were able to develop our own taste, but I don't think there's anything that each of us have on our playlists that offend each other's ear. You know what I mean? We at least tolerate.
Yeah. It's not that if it's played 17,000 times in a row.
Right, but if it were just like that, you have to have on repeat. I'm talking about if one of us puts on our playlist, I don't think there's many songs that are going to be like, skip that.
How many times did we listen to Linda Ronstedt's
It's my fault, yes, for playing songs to death.
what was the
long,
song?
long time.
I love that song.
Yeah.
But after the 50th time in a row,
That
You
was
know.
her dramatic
Yes.
teenage stage.
yes, that's true.
It was.
And we thought we were going to hear it for a long, long time.
For a long, long time.
I feel like out of all of us, I probably have the most songs that I'm gonna go listen to this in my closet because, I'm the only one who enjoys it.
You're very song tolerant. Like, even if it's a bad recording of the song or bad arrangement, in my opinion.
She always sees the best in things.
That is true, and you always see the best in people.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I have a few closet songs. So,
What would one be? Just
well, one is very popular among the general populace. It's just not very popular in this household, and that'd be Take On Me.
Take on me.
Oh yeah, I'm
I
not,
love
not
that
a fan.
song.
I know a lot of people are. But
I don't have "Don't Stop Believin'" on my playlist yet.
No, you're not going to.
And I don't.
You have Veggie Tales on your playlist. That's what it is. You have Veggie Tales.
Okay, hear me out. I'm just gonna say this. I'm not a huge Elton John fan,
Okay.
but I love Crocodile Rock.
Okay.
I love Donny Osmond singing Crocodile Rock,
Okay.
but he never recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
So the only version
He sang it live.
he sang it live, but he never recorded it. So the only version I can stand to listen to is Larry the Cute. No, excuse me.
She's gonna offend the vegetables.
Archibald the asparagus. It is not Larry the cucumber. It's Archibald the asparagus.
And
who
Junior,
sings it.
right?
And
we are
Junior.
going to hear about this in the comments, guys.
And we all know who's gonna be the one commenting on it. But we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna move on to our last question. It's gonna be an easy one to answer. It is from our Uncle Jason.
Jason R. Watson.
Jason R. Watson, who says
Okay.
we never mention him on anything, even when we do. He says, why hasn't their favorite uncle been on their pod yet? And I have tried to answer this, but he had to put it on our post as well, so it's getting mentioned in the episode. It is because we do not have a podcast studio. We're in our living room, and I cannot take phone calls yet. When we are out in Washington State, I will have you on the podcast. There. Now the whole world knows.
Thank you.
Uh-oh.
It's out on the airwaves.
Yeah. It could be a little scary.
All right, so that was the last question before we get into the final section of this episode. I do just want to say make sure that you are part of the Squadcast discussion group because we have a lot of fun in there posting things that we talk about in the episode, and you're free to post anything you want. So if you have a question for us, we're very interactive in the Squadcast discussion group. Join that on Facebook. Give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram. And then we do have our single, The Great Unknown, coming out. Early access will be available on April 24th, so getting close. We're excited about that. And the official release date is May 22nd. That is when you will be able to stream it on all platforms. And we'd just like you to add it to your playlists and play it to death because we want to share it with everybody. So we hope that you're as excited as we are about The Great Unknown being released.
When it comes to the great unknown, use Xena's strategy for Linda Ronstadt's Long, Long Time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Play
This
it back
one
to
you
back to
can
back.
Play forever and ever and
Yes,
ever.
yes. Teach the algorithm that it needs to promote it to other people. So thank you all for your support in that area.
Annoy your friends.
What?
Annoy your friends.
Yes, send it to everybody. Have them listen to it too. All right. So we are into the 80s and 90s now for Amazing Grace. And you mentioned this singer in our little discussion here. And this one is on my playlist. So I have heard this version before. And it is B.J. Thomas's version.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I love almost all of his gospel recordings.
Yes, me too.
I don't think he has one quote unquote bad gospel album.
No, his arrangements are amazing. And he did get calisthenic on it, but the way that BJ does his curls emphasizes the words.
Yes. Yes.
There are often times when they do calisthenics, you lose the words. BJ has a way of making it more powerful.
Yes.
by
And
the
to
way
be
he does
honest,
that.
his calisthenics are so natural.
Right,
Seamless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
It's not like he's trying to prove something. It's like he's just singing from his heart.
Yeah. It's literally the way that he sings. He kind of like Elvis. He grew up in that kind of sound, and so that's how he developed his singing ability.
So this was a great version. It was a very calming version, and love BJ Thomas.
All right. Next up is Sandy Patty.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved
actually kind of liked it.
It was a nice version. I'm not usually a big Sandy Patty fan, but it was softer than some of her other.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really
arrangements.
pretty.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right, I don't know if you've heard this version or not. Seen it was recorded in 1996, and it is Crystal Gale.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I loved her version.
Me too.
Yes.
That was great.
Mm-hmm.
My favorites right now is Ray Price and her.
Yeah.
Patty Page is in there, but I
Yeah.
liked Ray Price and
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up the rest of this album. It was in the 90s, and it's He Is Beautiful was the album.
Oh, I've heard He Is Beautiful, but I did not realize. See, I didn't know if that was a Christian song or not.
Oh.
I always thought it worked for a Christian song, but I thinking she might have released it as a single so that it could have been counted as secular too. I'll have to. It's a cool song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like. No, it was originally a secular song, but on B.J. Thomas' album.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
You Gave Me
what
Love.
A
I think the
difference-
album.
What a difference you've made in my life.
Yeah, because that's originally Ronnie Millsap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they changed that around to the Lord. Yeah, this version was great, and I'm starting to reintegrate Crystal Gale into my listening because that was another artist I know I played and played and played.
Mm-hmm.
And I just haven't been listening to her as much lately. But this song is exactly why she's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Because so smooth and soothing, but she puts in those spoken words.
Yeah.
And you really feel the message.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the only version that she took I was blind, but now I see as the ending tag.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That was very impactful
That was
because
cool.
basically it's saying the entire song wouldn't happen if your eyes had not been opened by the Holy Spirit.
Especially, it was impactful after that line about the what's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see that now.
Mm-hmm.
One of the, other than the vocals and everything, the highlights for me was that saxophone.
I couldn't tell if it was
Or a
the end was
harmonica?
definitely a sax, but I couldn't tell if it was a sax or
Some sort of wind
harmonica.
instrument
Mm-hmm.
in the middle really gave that, I don't know, beautiful, nostalgic
Mm-hmm.
sax instrumental that I love because of, actually, and this really, outwardly, it doesn't look like anything Christian, but that sound was a lot in my childhood, like especially during Christmas time in the mall.
Oh.
That sound I love.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby's Christmas music really
Yeah,
focuses
Hobby
on the
Lobby.
sax and everything.
Yeah, I get more Apache Mall vibes, you know, being all dressed in cute Christmas outfits that Linda made and going out shopping and getting home late.
All right, we have 2 more versions, and this one I have never heard before. Maybe you have, Linda. It's by Michael Crawford.
No, but I love Michael Crawford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I kind of don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I didn't really.
Mm-mm.
It didn't move me like some others have.
No. And from an artistic point of view, I can kind of see what he was trying to do. It had a mix of cultures to me.
Well, that's interesting. It sounded very actually cinematic again, like they could have used it in a movie. It had a vibe of missionaries in Africa. Do you
I
understand
guess
what
I
I'm
could
saying?
see that.
I could see that. I could not decide. And you said the singer with him, what was her name?
Marie Brennan, I believe.
Marie Brennan. Now, I had never heard her, although her voice sounds very familiar. So maybe I've heard her in something and I'm not aware. When she first came in, I almost thought it was him singing higher harmony
Yeah.
when they first started together. I wasn't always crazy about where she went with the harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, But it was I think their
But I also
voices go
didn't
well
hate
together.
it. It's like
I know.
I couldn't decide how I felt because the beginning sounded like very African drums.
Yeah, and I like that.
But then it almost gave me like a vibe of the song Alone Yet Not Alone by Johnny Erickson Tata.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be more the, Native American kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she did have that kind of Celtic Irish tone
She
to
is
her
an
voice.
Irish folk singer, yeah.
To me, it sounded like the end scene of a movie about missionaries.
That
I could see that,
It could
yeah.
be an end credits song. Yes.
Or like, they're all gathered at the church again,
Mhm.
and they sing.
I could see that. But yeah, just to listen to it, probably not, because the entire time I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
Instead
it's
of
more of a musically analyzing song.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Which is what we're doing.
Yes. We're very good at that. All right, last version was released in 1998, and this is Carol. I was always told it was Roberson in our house, although I think he says it Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
But Carol Robertson does a lot of good Christian music, and this is his version released in 1998.
Amazing grace, oh how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Of course, I like Carol.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like I know him personally, right?
Well, it does feel like that, at least for me, because I grew up listening to his music. Like, I would go to sleep listening to his music. We had CDs of him playing as Zine and I would go to sleep in our room.
Yeah. I love it. This version, I think as a kid when I heard it, it's interesting how he ends the entire last verse just saying praise God.
Yeah.
And this is a great way to end our listening to the song, because you can speak of God's grace and try to describe it and try to say in your heart how thankful you are. But when it comes down to it, it's praise God. That's all that needs to be said. That's all that can be said. Like when your heart is overwhelmed with the goodness, all you can do is give back that praise.
Exactly.
And so I love how he ends that version.
Yeah. It's like the love of God, that song.
It's greater than we can describe. So, and the heart of praise is, as long as we're living there, we're safe, because that's where he keeps us.
Yes. Yes.
So I really enjoyed this episode.
I did too, and I hope that you all did, and kind of put you in the right frame of mind for Good Friday here.
As far as favorite versions going around the room, I know you already kind of said yours. I'd have to say it's hard because I'm going to have more than 3. I think Carol Robertson for me is an honorable mention because I love that one anyway. It's one of the first versions I'd heard. I think my top 3, definitely Ray Price
Yes.
gets number 1. I think Crystal Gale gets number 2. Wayne Newton
Yeah.
it's number 3. Wayne Newton really impacted me. And then I have to also throw in there, on a different kind of level, Cliff's version.
She's a loyal Cliff fan.
I am, and I like that version too. But those were my top 3, I would have to say. Would be
So
Ray,
are you a
Crystal.
Clifty? They have Swifties out there.
Oh, don't even.
Clifty?
Please. I have been called a Cliffy before by
It'd
somebody.
be a Cliffy.
Yeah.
A Cliffy because there's no T.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Somebody
Cliffy.
has already labeled me that on our page, so probably rightfully so.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Zena's choices on that. I'm too sentimentally attached to Carol Robertson's to pick his, so it's just kind of like a constant that it's one of my favorites. But yeah, Ray Price, Crystal Gale, and Wayne Newton are probably my favorites.
Yeah, and I kind of second that, except I do love
Third that because I seconded it.
Patty Page's was really special too.
Yes.
I liked Crystal Gale's probably number 1, and then Ray Price, and then Cliff. Actually,
Oh, really?
yeah.
How about you, Linda?
Oh, I already said mine.
Oh, you did?
Ray Price, Crystal Gale, and
Patty Page?
Patty Page. I
That's
liked
right.
hers.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, hers was good. Oh, I forgot about Tennessee. He's got to be in there somewhere. I might have to kick Cliff to honorable mention.
I have to say, bless your pea-picking heart.
That's right.
he's one of those that like he's a singer that I guess like is just kind of taken for granted, and I didn't really like think about that I liked his voice, but I actually do. He's like kind of one of my random singers I just like, and I don't really know why. I just like him.
So we would love to hear in the comments which version of Amazing Grace is your favorite, either from this episode or maybe you know a version that we did not get to listen to. So please let us know because we'd love to hear other versions.
And then make sure if you did not watch it at the beginning, you watch the story behind Amazing Grace, which will be in the comments, or not in the comments, but in the description box below, along with links to all the versions that we listened to, all our social media platforms, and our coffee page. If you can, we would love to have you support us on our coffee page. We're going to be starting a movie club, but that is going to be for coffee members only. So you have to subscribe to a monthly membership in order to access the movie club episodes. It's going to be really fun. Going to be similar to what we did for Christmas with the Christmas Carol. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out, but we would love to have you on board for our exclusive content and a part of our movie club.
Thank you for listening. Have a good Friday, a happy Resurrection Sunday, and we will talk to you next week.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.